try to get rid of that by drinking, carrying on.
No, it was sort of terrible, eh? Being away from your family and, you know, not seeing her for 13 years or something like that. It's, you know, it's a long time.
6 was taken away, there's 3 gone.
Passed away?
Yeah.
Oh, it just wasn't the same. It's not the same with the family no more, you know.
For 9 years, Malcolm didn't see his family. Didn't hear from them, didn't see them. And in that time, as I said to you before, he wasn't taught to read or write. He wasn't taught to fit in with society. He wasn't taught how to use a bank, a welfare system. He wasn't taught anything. I mean, like, basically all he was taught was to be angry.
But he didn't stay out for long. He started stealing things again then. He just got used to being, you know, where he was, I suppose, you know. Most of his life, really, locked away.
Malcolm was on the outside for only 4 months, and in May 1973, he was jailed for stealing a medical kit, 2 suitcases and some clothing. He was now inside the adult penal system, and the vicious circle continued, around and around. From the time that he took the push bike to the time of his death was to be 17 years. And during that time, he only had 17 months of freedom. All his life, all he wanted to do was get home. But each time he was released, they just opened the gates and spat him out.
There's no pre-release counselling, there's no post-release counselling, and you're very, very scared, and it's just mainly you're left to your own devices and you have to sort yourself out pretty quick, otherwise you're going to end up back in jail. In most cases, that's where everyone that I know, and particularly Mal, they always ended up back in jail. Your own sense of right or wrong tells you that it's not right for you to go and steal something, and it's not that you're not going out to steal this bloke because you want to rob him because he's got plenty of money and you want that money. It's like somebody slashing their wrist, you know. It's the same sort of psychological process there, you know. It's a self-destructive quality that you develop through all this suppression. So you don't care if you destroy yourself or you destroy somebody else's life in the meantime.
The files that I read recognised that Malcolm only stole to survive. Yet he kept receiving the maximum sentence from magistrates that felt he was a hindrance to society. Each time he was sentenced, he was pushed closer and closer to the edge.
You end up back in jail as a result of your actions, and in jail you find a sense of relief. You think to yourself, well, shit, I'm glad I'm back here now with all the boys and I don't have to pretend to be anything but what I am. And that's the way you are, and that's the way the system's made you.
The attitude of the prison authorities shows in the psychiatric reports. On examination, he is certainly slow and also appears dull. The parole officer just picked up on that without making his own decision regarding Malcolm. He is aggressive by nature, and no doubt what brains he may have had have probably been further damaged by his excessive consumption of alcohol. It seems that everyone who wrote about Malcolm thought that he was defective in one way or another. But when I talked to those who knew him best, I heard a different story.
Mal and I became probably close and more like actual brothers because we shared a cell together on a number of occasions over the years, for a couple of years at a time. And even if you spend 3 months in a cell with somebody, you get to know them pretty well. So we were very close, very close. His family used to write letters to him, and I used to read the letters for him, and he had a love for his family that was continually suppressed all his life, but that love was always there.
What was he like?
He was a sports person. Weights, used to do weights, a bit of boxing and that, and a creative sort of a person, very athletic, and a very polite person. And because of Mal's sporting ability, he became a bit of a leader to the other couriers.
I remember he had a lovely smile. He was always quite cheerful with me, but I guess it was because he was pleased to see me. He knew there was someone to talk to, and he'd been denied for so long the opportunity to talk like a normal human being does.
What his biggest hurdle was is he couldn't read or write. You know, there was nothing wrong with him mentally, and conversation with him revolved around intelligent things, but not educated things, but intelligent things about life. And art, he was very interested in art. He used to paint all the time.
He was at his most happy when he had a pencil or a paintbrush in his hand, but he certainly also, he was an institutionalised man. I mean, as people become when they're taken away from the real world, he had become a bit robot-like. He was doing things when he was told to do them, and there wasn't a lot of room for creativity. So I suppose his art was just like an acceptable outlet, a way that he could reach that part of him that was a feeling human being.
His social skills would have been just interacting with the boys in a basic abnormal situation like prison is. It's a very violent place, and you have to be stronger than the next person to survive. You can't let little emotions get the better, or if somebody from your family wrote and told you that this is happening, you'd have to treat it like it was a stranger that was writing it to you, but otherwise you'd go mad worrying about it.
So what Malcolm did was he was copping a letter from some member of the family. The letter saying to him, that someone's knocking Peggy about. She's living with a bloke called Terry Percival, and he's punching her around a bit. What he did was he got out of prison, he waited for his time, and he went and fronted Terry Percival.
He heard that Terry used to eat her around. He didn't like that, his sister being bashed around.
He talked to Terry in the pub and they went outside, and Malcolm dropped him. He wasn't going to do any more than just to give him a hiding, but Terry went down, hit his head on the cement and died of a brain hemorrhage. It was just a thing of bad luck.
Well, I just asked him, I said, did you do that? Did you do that? And he said, yes. He said, I did that, but I didn't mean to do it. I didn't mean to kill him. And I said, yeah, I know that. And I knew, I didn't have to ask because I knew that he didn't mean to do it. He wouldn't. And everybody just moved away and didn't want nothing to do with him, and he just went into hiding.
When his sister seen him, Peggy, she turned around and she said, "You killed my baby's father. Who's going to look after this baby? You're not my brother anymore. You're no good. Leave me alone." Now, I don't know how Malcolm would have felt, but I know that it destroyed him, because the only people that he could relate to, the only people on the outside of a system where he'd been institutionalised, the only people outside of that whole system were denying him.
And he was hurting real bad, you know, because he wasn't, you know, wanted anymore. Everybody just hated him, you know, and well, that's what he thought for what he did. I'm sure he wasn't the same when he's that time when he went back into jail, because there was nothing for him, you know, nothing. What was there for him? Because he's already killed a man, and his family don't want nothing to do with him.
From that point on, he started to talk about religion and looking for forgiveness. And forgiveness at that early stage wasn't coming from the family, but the forgiveness was coming from these religious people, you know.
In bounced this animated, enthusiastic and athletically handsome young Aboriginal with the question, "Reverend," he says, "have you got any tapes of the Bible?" And I responded immediately and said, "Oh, I don't think I have." "Wait a minute." I said, "I've got a copy of Matthew's Gospel on tape. I could take a copy of that if you like." "That'll do, Reverend," he said, and off he went.
If thy right eye offends thee, pluck it out and throw it away. It is better for thee to lose one part of thy body than for the whole of it to be thrown into hell. And if thy right hand offends thee, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for thee to lose one part of thy body than for the whole of it to be thrown into hell.
And all of a sudden he's painting scenes out of the Bible, like, you know, Moses parting the sea, and he's just talking about guilt, and he's talking about his family. And then one night was just laying in the cell. We were watching television without the sound on, and next thing I know, he jumped up and he grabbed my hand and looked straight up at him, and I could see that he was gone. I could see he was gone, and he was crying. He was saying, "Do you know who I am? Do you know who I am?" I said, "Yeah, you're Mel Smith." And he said, "No." He said, "I'm not." I said, "Who are you?" And he said, "I'm Jesus Christ. And I forgive every one of their sins."
I was just visiting people in the wards when suddenly I heard the voice